In the 16th century, Spain and Portugal reigned as the world's dominant powers, with their ships traversing distant seas in search of new lands. As they ventured into unfamiliar territories, they encountered civilizations unknown to Europe, bringing back exotic goods that piqued the interest of both royal courts and common folk alike. But their motivations went beyond mere curiosity. Driven primarily by greed, they sought to amass wealth for their nations and themselves. This thirst for riches often resulted in violent clashes as they claimed new territories and plundered resources. From this pursuit emerged a new kind of figure, the conquistador. These explorer soldiers embodied the ambitions of Spain and Portugal, enforcing their empire's will through force and spreading their influence across the globe. Where did the conquistadors come from? The conquistador armies were far from homogeneous. While most of their ranks hailed from the Iberian Peninsula, they also included men from various regions of Europe and even Africa. Many of these recruits were young artisans chasing fortune and fame. They underwent rigorous, specialized combat training, which was both lengthy and demanding. Beyond military skills, many conquistadors received education in subjects like mathematics, theology, Latin, Greek, writing, and history after joining, offering them a path to upward mobility. Their ranks included individuals from all walks of life, from humble laborers to wealthier hidalgos. Additionally, many Native Americans joined the Spanish forces, siding with the conquistadors to fight against their own local adversaries. The Catholic faith was a key element in the lives of the conquistadors, with numerous Dominican and Franciscan friars accompanying expeditions, providing religious services, and acting as missionaries, converting the indigenous peoples of the Americas. The conquistadors as conquerors, Hernán Cortés. The most renowned conquistadors etched in history are those who brought down the mighty Aztec and Inca empires. Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro are forever linked with these conquests. Cortés's rise began after the Spanish conquest of Cuba, led by Diego Velázquez de Cuéllar, who became a powerful ally when he was named governor of New Spain in 1511. At this time, New Spain was limited to a few Caribbean islands, far from the vast mainland territories Cortés would later explore. Over time, Cortés gained prominence, eventually becoming the mayor of Cuba. By 1519, he was ready to embark on an expedition to the mainland. However, by then, his relationship with Velázquez had soured, and Velázquez attempted to remove him from command. Defying orders, Cortés set sail with 500 men, 11 ships, and a handful of cannons, turning himself into a fugitive. On his journey, Cortés won several battles against local indigenous groups, adding to his reputation. One significant acquisition from these early victories was a native woman named La Malinche, who became his translator, advisor, and eventually the mother of his son, the first child born of a European father in the Americas. As Cortés marched toward the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, he forged alliances with local enemies of the Aztecs and carried out brutal massacres along the way, which made him both feared and respected. Upon his arrival in Tenochtitlan, Cortés was greeted by the Aztec Emperor, Moctezuma II, who hoped to learn more about these strange newcomers by welcoming them. However, the plan backfired, as Cortés and his men seized the opportunity to take Moctezuma hostage after killing Aztec nobles. The situation spiraled out of control, and Moctezuma was eventually killed by his own people. The Spanish, now trapped and under siege, made a desperate escape, narrowly avoiding annihilation. Despite this setback, Cortés returned in 1521 with reinforcements and laid siege to Tenochtitlan, starving the city into submission. the once mighty capital crumbled, much to the satisfaction of indigenous allies who had long suffered under Aztec dominance. For Cortés and his men, the conquest brought immense wealth, and Cortés's fame spread throughout Europe. The Spanish crown pardoned him for defying Velázquez, and he was rewarded with the noble title of Marquis. The conquistadors as conquerors, Francisco Pizarro. Another well-known Spanish conqueror, Francisco Pizarro, brought the mighty Inca Empire to its knees about a decade after Hernán Cortés's conquest of the Aztecs. Pizarro, a distant relative of Cortés, was born out of wedlock with little education and remained illiterate throughout his life. Yet, after venturing to the New World in 1509, he quickly made a name for himself as a skilled conquistador. His rising reputation earned him the position of mayor of the newly founded Panama City. Determined to uncover new wealth, Pizarro led 3 expeditions southward. His first attempt met disaster as he and his men struggled with hunger, severe weather, and resistance from local tribes. The second expedition was also challenging and was eventually ordered back. However, Pizarro and 13 loyal followers defied the recall and pushed onward, discovering evidence of the wealthy Inca Empire. Though the findings were promising, the governor of Panama denied Pizarro permission for another attempt, so he sailed to Spain to seek royal support. In his appeal to King Charles I and Queen Isabel, he won approval to pursue his discoveries. In 1531, Pizarro set off on his third expedition with just 180 men. They were soon joined by an additional 30, including the famous conquistador, Hernando de Soto. Meanwhile, Atahualpa, the Inca emperor, saw little threat from the small group of Spaniards and even invited them to his stronghold. Inspired by Cortés's strategy, Pizarro demanded the Incas' conversion to Christianity, which Atahualpa naturally refused. Seizing this pretext, Pizarro launched a surprise attack, capturing Atahualpa and killing his guards. The conquistadors then unleashed a brutal massacre, devastating the unprepared Inca forces with their superior weapons and armor. Thousands of Incas perished, and Atahualpa was held in a room measuring 22 by 17 feet, for which Pizarro demanded a ransom in gold that filled it to the ceiling. Although the ransom was paid, Pizarro's lieutenant, Diego de Almagro, executed Atahualpa. Following this, Pizarro ruled as governor of New Castile, while Almagro was appointed governor of New Toledo. Disputes over their territories eventually escalated into open conflict. Pizarro emerged victorious, captured Almagro, and had him executed. However, in 1541, Almagro's son orchestrated Pizarro's assassination, though he too was eventually captured and executed the following year. While their name implies conquest, as conquistador means conqueror, these Spanish adventurers were also drawn to explore and chart lands unknown to Europe. However, their quest for discovery was deeply entangled with a hunger for riches, especially gold. Among these explorer conquistadors, Hernando de Soto stands out, having traversed much of the southeastern United States. Born to nobility but without wealth, De Soto left Spain to find his fortune in the Americas, soon distinguishing himself in Central America as a fierce fighter, skilled horseman, and ruthless strategist who often exploited local villages. Later, he joined Francisco Pizarro in the Inca conquest and was promoted to captain for his prowess. Following his success, he served as lieutenant governor of Cuzco, but declined when Diego de Almagro did not allow him to join his campaign into southern Incan territory, modern-day Chile, and he opted to return to Spain. Undeterred, De Soto amassed a force of hundreds from Spain and Portugal to explore North America. He arrived in Florida in 1539 and was soon joined by Juan Ortiz, a Spaniard who had lived with the Mocoso and now served as interpreter. Throughout the journey, De Soto adopted the tactic of convincing various tribes he was a deity, an approach with mixed results. Conflict frequently arose with local peoples, and the conquistadors seized many as forced laborers and exploited them in other ways. De Soto's army clashed with the Timucuan people, whom they defeated and killed in large numbers. By 1540, the expedition pushed north through Georgia and South Carolina, venturing into the Appalachian regions of North Carolina and Tennessee, yet failing to uncover any gold. In the Coosa chiefdom within the Mississippian cultural region, tensions peaked when De Soto's men demanded more servants and women. After Chief Tuscaloosa resisted, they took him hostage, prompting the Native Americans to meet their demands reluctantly. But retribution followed when, en route to a rendezvous on the Gulf of Mexico, they were ambushed by Tuscaloosa's Mobilian allies. In a brutal 9-hour battle, the Spaniards killed thousands of Mobilians, but lost over 200 of their own, along with many horses and essential supplies. Realizing a retreat to the Gulf could bring news of their failure to Spain, De Soto abandoned that plan and continued north. In early 1541, De Soto's strained relations with the Chickasaw led to another deadly encounter. After refusing to supply 200 porters, the Chickasaw launched a surprise night attack that killed 40 Spaniards and obliterated their remaining equipment. The Chickasaw, opting not to pursue further, left the weakened expedition to wander aimlessly. By 1542, De Soto succumbed to fever, and his remaining men, defeated and desolate, staggered back to Mexico City, marking the journey as an abject failure. The expedition also left a lasting legacy of animosity between Native Americans and future European settlers. De Soto's forces introduced diseases that devastated indigenous populations, and in their relentless pursuit of wealth, the conquistadors' violent legacy cast a long shadow of suffering across these lands. While modern standards and even some contemporaries saw the brutality of their actions, the conquistadors were also adventurers whose exploits brought tales of exotic places, perilous encounters, and heroism. Their stories of far-off lands and daring deeds continue to capture imaginations, much as they did in Spain and Portugal half a millennium ago.